Longer today. Huh, LinkedIn didn't go live. Let me try this again. Now it did. I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg, except for the prior 8 seconds.
And we are the CRM Players. What a surprise that is.
Someday, we'll maybe we'll like change the name or something and freak people out, or at least
You
freak
mean like,
ourselves out.
I was going to say, you mean so in addition to us, you mean like the other two people who watch? Or like Sven? I
No, no,
think Sven
actually, I
might
just
be
meant
joining.
our alter egos. Well,
Oh,
Sven will speak in other. Sven will add 15 new languages to his hellos.
I'm actually anticipating Sven's hello today. What language it will be in. We'll see.
I'm
But
going for Finnish.
Sven speaking Finn-ish. All right, that'd be kind of good.
You
But
can
anyway,
see
we
it.
do. We have a really cool. I think we have a really great show ahead because it's a subject matter that I am very interested in. It's the whole voice interface thing, and we're going to talk to a couple of definite. I call them OGs, like, but I don't know if you would be an original gangster in voice tech. I don't. That just doesn't sound right, but you know.
And if it doesn't sound right, then we have a problem with it.
I hadn't thought about that, but we'll figure it out. We will get through. But before we bring them on and we introduce them, we got a couple of house cleaning duties kind of thing to do.
House cleaning.
I
Oh,
always say house cleaning, house
I know.
keeping. What's the
Housekeeping. I was about to
difference?
say, yeah, the house cleaning. No, you know what it is? The house cleaning is somebody just fired you and me.
They clean house
That's right. They cleaned house. Players are out.
because we don't keep house very well. Nah, I don't know.
No.
Oh, wait a minute. Why is it saying? All right, I thought we were on LinkedIn. Check. We're gonna have to check. Alan, see if it's because it says I'm on right now. It says we had a little hiccup earlier, but it said that we're on. I think I can actually check because I'd hate to start
Well,
doing
Alan's
stuff and
comment is coming in through LinkedIn. So,
no,
oh,
it's doing it through Facebook. Yeah,
Facebook, yeah.
that's kind of bad. But it had a little hiccup, but then it said we were live on LinkedIn. So I'm gonna just take a quick look and see what we got. It says, wait a minute, oh, that was live on Facebook. Let me try. Let's go to LinkedIn real quick. Because if it's not on LinkedIn, we may have to start this baby over. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we will.
Okay, so I'm going check in. Now it says we're live. So Alan, you might want to refresh or something because I'm actually. It says we're live.
Yeah, come
Doing
on
it
back,
live.
Alan, and test it for us.
Yeah, we did have a glitch. A glitch.
A bl-
That
and
was
a
all. That was
blur.
very dangerous.
No, that's a. You know what that is? That's a glitch
A
on.
blip and a glitch and
It's a glitch on Blur's Day.
a
It's
blitch
a
and a
glitch.
glitch.
No, a glitch is a glitch
A
on
blitch.
Thursday.
Son of a
A,
blitch. I mean, that could be
a
like really.
glitch on Thursday. Still
So
don't see
he
it.
still doesn't see it. That's really weird because I am actually on my. I see on my LinkedIn profile,
I think I'll
and
go and check.
I'm refreshing it too just to make sure, and it does say, and there's even a comment on there. Yeah. All right. So our buddy. Guess who sees us?
Sven.
So
Oh,
so
Tyrone.
Alan. Oh, there he is. Now he's got it. See, you scared us, man.
Yeah, now I see us on LinkedIn too. I'm looking
Our
now.
corporate narrative is. I'm afraid now. That's our
It's
corporate
been
narrative.
ruined.
Fear.
Alan, you ruined our corporate narrative.
It's it's fear and blitches.
That's right. Which is
And I said there's an L in there, folks. Blitch is
and
not.
it's and a blitch is a glitch on Blur's Day.
Yeah, or it's a blip and a glitch combined, whatever you want to call it. And there he is, folks. Now we know we're on LinkedIn because there's Finn. All right, we're good to
Oh,
go. We're feeling good.
what's Hedgevenner? That's Finnish.
Maybe it's finished. I don't know. All right, now Finn, you got to tell us what the translation is because we just don't know. All right. All right. Yeah, you should be sorry. You got us all scared there, buddy.
Hedgevenner is Danish. Just looked it up.
Oh, I thought it was like
Danish.
Eddie Vedder or anyway.
Eddie
So,
Vedder. Hedgevenner.
all
He was
right.
Eddie Vedder when he played in Denmark.
There it is. Okay, so before we have our guests on, I do want to go over a couple of things, but I would love for you to tell folks how our first ever CRM Players watch party went.
It was pretty cool. I mean, we kind of planned it like watching a sports event at a watch party and Mystery Science Theater 3000. It's a good post. It's literally the biggest
Danish.
guest post ever watched. I looked it up. Yeah, hi friends, Danish. So I was kind of like playing. So, and we had some concerns. If you remember that we couldn't really talk over Larry Ellison without interrupting. But as it worked out, as you put it, you and me had a conversation about what we were hearing and seeing, as if we were at sitting at the analyst tables at a keynote and doing what we usually do, which is comment, although a little less snarkily than normal, but we were commenting publicly. That was the one reason we were a little less snarky than normal.
Yeah, of course.
Libel does not suit us, right? So, and we're basically talking about what we saw as good and bad. And then the other thing that was really fun was that there was, I think, it was 140 comments. And,
I think it was like that, something like that.
And those were discussions about what they were seeing on the actual, with the actual speech. So it was a lot of fun. And let's say this: you and I were very nervous about. Well, not really nervous. We don't get very. Let's put it this way: it was experimental. We didn't know if it was going to succeed. I really can't say we were nervous about it, but we were, let's say, wondering if. And it did. It really did succeed. So you should tell them about what we got planned as a result of that.
So, because it seemed to, the word that we got was it was positively received and lots of good feedback. Even our buddy Alan, who scared us half to death, said something along the lines of that was better than live tweeting, which is, that's nice to hear. So we thought that because that was kind of experimental and we didn't put the big word out because we weren't sure it was going to work out. But now that we feel a little bit more confident about things, we're ready to take it to the next level. So it just so happens that on December 2nd, 1 p.m. East Coast time, Mark Benioff's Dreamforce keynote will be kicking off. And so with that in mind, we said, all right, we're going to do this again. And we're actually going to kind of make it a little bigger this time. We're going to build on that foundation a bit. So we have already we actually just set up a LinkedIn event. So folks who want to check it out with us, and it's a watch party, we're going to be, commenting and pointing out things that just hit us as soon as they come to our minds. They might just come flying out our mouths. You never know. So we're going to do that. And we're going to take your comments. If we see things that are intriguing and interesting, we're going to pop them up and maybe try to talk about it in the context of what's going on with the keynote. We're trying to blow it up a little bit this time. So we created a LinkedIn event. And I mean, we literally just put that up last evening. I think it was pretty late in the day. But the first time I put it up, I had a little glitch. That was, a blitch or a glitch, whatever you want to call it. And so we had to repost it later in the day. But I'm checking right now. And you want to guess how many people
9:00 tonight. Well, I know the approximate number, so I won't guess.
All right. Well, as it stands right now, there are 128 people registered already. That's pretty amazing. Yeah. So, and this is, like I said, December 2nd. So there's plenty of time if you want to hang out with us and, kind of, we kind of look at this like it's almost like a football game. And you have the players playing the game, and you have the announcers. You have the color commentator and the play-by-play. But I am never going to be Joe Buck, folks. Do not ever make that mistake. So we'll be on screen, kind of giving some comments, but we'll be taking your comments as well and posting them up and seeing what the conversation is. And we'll do that for the whole keynote. And we do have a surprise. We're hoping that will come through. We can't say right now definitively if it will or if it will not, but if it does come through, it'll be really cool. It'll be a great addition to what we want to do. And then, of course, if that happens or if it doesn't happen, one thing we are definitely going to do after the keynote is, bring some analysts on, bring our players and residents on, get the conversation flowing again, get everybody's thoughts, and then this is your idea, so you tell them about the whole grading thing.
Yeah, so I know a lot of people probably remember I used to grade events back in the day, back when I was a young man. And now, Brent and I kind of decided that we're going to literally render judgment upon these people as Caesar did back in Rome. Right.
I hadn't heard that part of it.
Well, it's render judgment unto Caesar in this case.
Isn't it render unto Caesar what Caesar's and when?
I don't know. I just know render and Caesar are in the same sentence. So I just figured I'd do that. Right. So we're going to render judgment. Basically, and what we're going to do is we're going to actually, like we did with Oracle, which we gave a solid B, we're going to grade, not just mark speech, because the idea is this combination of the speech or the interaction and the direction of the company, given what we saw and how effective they were, and there'll be a grade that comes out of this. And as I said, Oracle's was a solid B, a dead center B. Wasn't B minus, wasn't B plus, B, right? And they did a good job on some things, not so good on others, et cetera, et cetera. So the same thing will happen this time.
You know what? I think I give our watch party first attempt. We should grade ourselves. If we're going to grade, Oracle, we ought to grade ourselves. So I would say I would give us a C plus, B minus, because we were, we didn't really push it. We were just trying to get our bearings with this thing.
That's an interesting thought. I think I would just give us a straight C plus. I don't know if I'd give us the B minus part. I mean, there was a lot of things that we were trying to get done and we didn't quite do it. And other times we would, like, I know a couple of times I just say something to say something, not because I had anything to say. I didn't want it to be silent for that long, or else it wouldn't be like Mystery Science Theater 3000. That was like in my head, right? And so that was definitely fun. And then once in a while, when you and I would sort of talk to each other in an actual, back and forth, a brief back and forth, you literally lost Larry for like a fairly solid amount of time, which we don't really want to happen either. So I'd say there was some timing issues and some, gap filling issues and so on.
No,
it's all right. Have to be hard on yourselves on beta. I'd say right. C plus. I give it C plus. And plus, because it wasn't an event, we didn't have that. We had a decent number of people, but not a lot, right? So
right.
I didn't think we had the comment, let's say, quantity that I would like to have seen. Even 140 is a lot, but
not bad.
We had 1,200 on the executive panel, which I don't expect us to
slightly different,
right? But nonetheless, to me, the starting range for us to really have a successful interaction and commentary would be about 250. I'd say 250 to 300, somewhere in that range.
And if we're already to 100 and almost 30 signed up for the first day, we're going to have a pretty good, I think we're going to have a pretty good group of folks.
I'm banking us breaking 1,000 registrants. I don't know about attendees, but registrants. I bet we do.
We'll see. All right. One last thing about that, because it caught a lot of people's attention. Larry's kind of the place that he did the live stream caught a lot of people's attention. It looked like it was in, like a bedroom of sorts, and he had a yoga ball in the corner. People seem to make a lot of the yoga ball and all that.
It was pink.
Well, that might be standard play for yoga. I have no idea. The one thing that some people really seem to take umbrage with was the bed not being made up. That's not my deal, but I just heard a lot about that. Anyway.
No, that was so funny. It looked like he was in sort of a relatively inexpensive hotel room, right?
I think he wanted to be in a location that nobody could say where it was. Like he was somewhere not, so that nobody could like do a GPS and find him or something. I don't know. Yeah, I thought it was okay.
I didn't buy. You know what? I saw it. I remember thinking when I saw the yoga ball in particular in the bed was, huh? But that was pretty much it,
Yeah,
right?
I didn't even notice it until I saw these people tweet, and they were like including me in the tweet. I'm like, dude, you're asking the
No,
wrong person, man. I don't know.
I know it was funny. I mean, ultimately we're going to hopefully drive a lot of actual good back and forth and content from this thing. And then,
Yeah,
one thing
that's
I
the
know
key.
Alan had mentioned he would appreciate it was the historical context that he was able to get from it. And there'll be some of that too.
Yeah,
I will tell you one thing, one other thing before we go to our guests. So, interestingly, from multiple people in multiple places, and it's been a significant enough amount of people to take notice. Brent and I have been getting this, and this, by the way, I'm not humble bragging. I'm literally just bragging straight out here, right? So it's nothing humble about what I'm saying here. But we've been told fairly frequently lately that, we've been, raising the bar for these kind of shows, and we've been raising the bar for engagement, and we've been escalating the forum, blah blah blah. And I mean, on the actual humble side, we really had no idea why people were saying that exactly. But I will tell you, I did put some thought to it, and a lot of thought to it, and because it was just too frequent from longtime veterans who have seen pretty much everything, um, to ignore the comments. And I had another one this morning from a Salesforce analyst relations person. Same thing, raising the bar on engagement, right? And here's I'm not going to go through what I think in detail. I'm just going to tell you this: that I'm writing a big piece, which I'm going to put out on ZDNet, about what we're doing, but also the intellectual framework for it, and what it actually, where the value beyond us lies in what's happening. Again, we didn't do any of this that consciously, to be honest. We're not that smart about it, but we are noticing it now. And I'm going to write this piece. It'll come out Monday, and I'm hoping it's going to change. If we do this right, it'll change the definition of interactivity and what it means in the next newer normal, right? Whatever it's going to be called. And
see, I don't know,
I
man. You're
hope.
putting a lot of pressure on us.
Oh no, it's not. We're still going to do what we do. That's not going to change right. People don't like it, they can lump it. That's the old. That was the old saying. But it should be out Monday or Tuesday, so people watch for it.
Cool. All right. I
Not
see
just
both of our guests are in the green room.
okay.
Nobody's eating a cronut though.
Well, you know why? They suck.
Yeah, they're not really good.
They're terrible.
Jonathan Becker, I mean, he really needs to, own up to that one.
He ruined us, actually.
I know. But I want to set the stage for this conversation because it's been like a long time percolating kind of thing. Because, I started writing that ZDNet column around voice interfaces, and that was, I don't know, a couple of years ago. And then everything just kind of just didn't seem to get as far along as I was hoping for, particularly when it comes to the enterprise space. And I know, voice, of course, is critical. And you think of the contact center or whatever you want to call it now. Some people still call it contact center. I don't know. So it's voice is always a critical component to certain things. But I was thinking, with these new voice first devices and all the, the chatter and the hubbub. Can't believe I just said hubbub, but I actually did. Yeah. Man, glitch and hubbub. What's going on with me today? That's an aside. Sorry, folks. Anyway, so voice in terms of like getting into applications and speaking to your applications, it just kind of felt like it was either plateauing or starting to go down. The interest wasn't there. I was talking to the vendors, and they were kind of backpedaling a bit. But something happened because over the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, I'm starting to feel like it's coming back. So they're starting to feel like there's more interest. And I want to point to a couple of things before we bring our folks on, and because I know they're going to want to comment on all this stuff. But Adobe just put out let's see if I can get this up. And let me make this a big screen here. Their voice survey 2020. Now, it's like 1,000 people. I think it looked like it was mostly B2C kind of folks, consumer-based stuff. and I can't put the whole deck because there's like a lot of pieces in here. So I'm just gonna choose a few of the slides to set the stage for today. So voice text steady and growing. I mean, and I like to see the use of voice technology growing 45% since January. So that says a lot. People are home and they're talking more and more. And this study was done, I think, like the first and second week of May. So this is pretty fresh kind of stuff around just voice, how people are using voice technology. Mostly, like I said, consumers. 85% have used voice technology more often or the same. So, so it's being used. Now, this is how it's mostly being used, like texting and maps. You add like simple requests. You need something, you get a response back, either an action done or, an answer. It's not like a full-fledged complex conversation going back and forth. So you're able to like dig into something like that takes more than a simple one-off request and a one response, like a real conversation with your app. That's not, none of that stuff is going on right now. But you're seeing a lot of people using these, for what I call pretty simple kind of tasks. Now,
so is this was that was that mostly like would that be mostly like either dictation or
well, yeah, or like you want to get directions,
voice commands?
Yeah, you want to get directions to this place. So you say, whatever, Alexa or Siri or whatever, give me directions to that, and then you get the directions. So I mean, pretty simple request.
Sorry, I couldn't find what you're looking for.
I need to turn this off right now.
Siri.
All right, there we go. All right, so yeah, sorry, Alexa. So anyway, so it's still very simple request. Ask for something, get something back, end of the discussion conversation, and it's mostly consumer related kind of stuff. It's not enterprisey or anything like that. This is where they say people are looking to use the technology. And once again, receiving travel directions, checking my bank. So once again, it's still kind of simple. There's not a lot of complexity in these interactions. But that's where it's been. And that was kind of where it was to me. That's kind of where it's been for the last several, at least couple of years, right? I mean, I haven't seen a lot of it kind of getting more and more complex. Maybe our buddies will show us, where we are, where it is happening. Most voice users go beyond simple commands, but to me, I don't really see these as complex commands. I mean, that we're seeing people using this stuff, not yet. And then there's a demand for or integration. Now, this is where I think it could start to be getting interesting. More integration is needed. And I think more integration is needed in order to try to do more complex things. And the thing that I wanted to point out with this one, there's a sentence that says, integration is even more important than accuracy, which has consistently been common feedback for voice. Now, that statement right there, it tells you this is not ready for the enterprise yet. Because let's face it, enterprise, the accuracy is pretty important in the enterprise, I would think. And so maybe this is where the big hang up is, why we're seeing it, taking some steps on the consumer side, but not, because when you think about employee experience stuff, it's got to be accurate. You can't be faking the funk on that stuff. So maybe,
you know what else on this particular slide?
Mm-hmm.
That's really kind of a false slide here, because I'll tell you why. The reality is, well, that's true. 70%. I'm saying not that the numbers are wrong, but most people assume a reasonable enough level of accuracy to already use it. So a lot of people aren't thinking better accuracy is necessary. I'm getting what I need, and it's okay as it is part where integration is, you either have it or you don't, right? So that's really not a fair question, because they're operating from entirely two different levels of thinking in that question.
Well, and these are folks that are probably more consumer oriented, and once again, their level of what they're looking for is not complex. I mean, you've seen what they're, how they're using it. There's no significant complexity, relatively speaking, than what you're going to need in an enterprise environment, right? And here's the number that still stops me in the path right now. 75% accurate rate. That's a long ways away.
Yeah.
From what you're really going to need if you really want to see this get into the enterprise environment, the employee experience stuff. I mean, that just seems like it's still significantly away a bit. But now I'm going to the positive here because I kind of didn't feel like that was all that positive into where I wanted it to go. But I have hope. Let me break out a couple of clips and then we will finally bring our guys on because they will be able to dig into this very much. All right, so I'm going to go to my first clip here. And if I can only bring myself, let me do this. Let me do this. All right, so here's the first clip, and this is a clip of me talking with Evan Goldberg from NetSuite a couple of months ago, and he is talking about the importance of voice from an enterprise application standpoint. Okay. Here we go. Let's see if we can get this going.
We're an AI supplier. We have a lot of machine learning and AI technology in our underlying cloud that's available for our application to use and exploit. Maybe the most obvious piece of AI that we have that's kind of visible through our applications is our voice digital assistant. So all of our applications have this very modern user interface, an AI-based user interface, where you talk to the application. It's very much like Amazon's Alexa, except you can talk to all of our applications. And that's because our applications are built on top of our infrastructure. And one of the key components of our infrastructure is the voice digital assistant. Our UIs are now the most modern UIs in the world. Why? Is Oracle's UI technology suddenly so much better than our competitors? Why do we have voice interfaces? Why do we have camera interfaces? Things like that for all of our applications. Well, that's the most prominent example of the fact that we're the only suite of enterprise applications that sit on top of true cloud infrastructure, and which includes, again, this fantastic new technology we've developed, which we call our voice digital assistant. Now, we didn't invent the voice digital assistant, but we have it in our infrastructure, and we're the only applications company to have a voice digital assistant in its infrastructure.
Right. All right, so that was not Evan Goldberg. Here's Evan Goldberg. This is what I wanted to play before the Larry clip because this is what really got me back to thinking there's something going on. So let me just play this real quick. Evan Goldberg talking about his thoughts around voice. One of the things that you talked about, you mentioned voice, and I remember you probably don't remember this, but I think it was at the last Suite World. There was a little analyst media kind of thing, and I asked you a question about voice and where does it fit into enterprise applications, and it seems like that year is kind of maybe forwarded the role of voice that you see.
Yeah, I think voice is huge. I tell it to my team, on the product development side all the time, how important I think it's going to be. It's not for all interactions with your application. I mean, but it's for a lot of them. And I mean, some people say, well, in offices, is that realistic? Well, we have call centers right now, so obviously people can talk in offices. And I think it'll be weird maybe for a while. But I think, it's a very, very efficient way to communicate person to person. It could, in a lot of cases, be a very efficient and natural way to communicate person to computer and computer to person, especially person to computer. I mean, the ability to just ask for what you want in English, and it's going to be faster than typing. I mean, my wife beat the typing teacher, but she also talks really fast. So even she talks faster than she types. But, so I think it's huge.
All right. So there's my wind up. Let me bring everybody in because with us right now, I've heard he's been called the bot father. This is really cool.
That can't be true.
Miller, the bot father is in the house. First of all, he is actually lead analyst and founder for Opus Research, and he's like the OG of voice technology in the analyst community. So Dan, thank you for joining us. And also
Glad to be here.
straight out of, I think it's Ireland, right? All right.
Yeah.
Paul Sweeney, who is the EVP of Webio, and he is also an old I was going to say original gangster of voice, but that doesn't really sound right, man.
I thought you'd have a glass of claret, Paul. What's going on?
He's the busker of voice.
Hey guys, thank you for joining us. This is one of these conversations I've been waiting to have, and you guys are the right guys to have it with. Now I went through this whole kind of setup. I gave you some data from Adobe. I gave you some sound and color from the Oracle folks. Now, I would love for each of you to just tell us, where do you think when it comes to voice interfaces and not just kind of the call center focused stuff, but also conversational interfaces, employee experiences, employees talking to applications versus clicking and slicking, whatever you want to call it. Where are we today, and are we moving in a better direction than we have been in the past year or so with this stuff? Whoever wants to go first, you guys decide.
Always the bot father. Dan, take it away.
So crazy. First of all, you talk about setting a low bar here. I mean, you made the point that voice had been stagnant up to a certain point for a decade now. And then somewhere, probably about 18 months ago, I always said voice was going to take off along a 3-year rolling plan. Every 3 years, you say, hey, it's right around the corner. But that got shortened to 18 months. Now I'd say it's been shortened to 3 months. It's measured in months. My cat's about to walk here, so that's why I'm looking strangely here.
Oh, good. He has an opinion. Let him.
She'll let you know. And to Larry's point, I remember visiting Oracle's technology center in Chicago probably in '92, and there was a huge team doing work around natural language understanding and voice modeling and all that sort of stuff. So we are the beneficiary of decades of development of software around natural language understanding, and now we have GPUs doing what CPUs used to do. To bring up the theme that came up earlier, accuracy is not an issue. Accuracy should be taken for granted. If you just sort of think of machines hearing something and then transcribing it accurately, you get the words right, you have more languages and all that sort of stuff. So what we're talking about in terms of making it useful is bringing in the resources that understand and get to the intent of the speaker. And whoever was answering the Oracle questions, I mean, that's humans' perception of what you can do with your voice is lagging. So we're at the blurt, we're beyond the blurt stage where, you first were confronting, think of how you used a Google search screen initially. You'd put in what you were thinking of and look for inaccurate links to get things back. And now we're learning that people are typing in the real words that they're putting their own language in just to do a search, and they're getting much more complex answers. So subtly, our expectations for what we can do with our voice, both for our personal lives and since we live personally at work as well in our work lives, is expanded exponentially. There's just much more possibility in the realization that we can do it. And that's where I think we're at. That's where I think we've gone from a standing start to, it's not crawl, walk, run. It's kind of like stand and then jump as high as you can. and the bar is getting higher. There's just higher expectation of what we can expect to do.
Mr. Sweeney.
It was just interesting. I'm always interested to see where people jump off from.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, it's just interesting because it's where people's anchors are, and in conversations. I think I was just listening to the setup there, and what struck me was that there's lots of things happening in different places. The problem is that we want a dominant narrative, and we want one killer thing that just everyone points to and goes, "Look, I told you, this thing just slayed, and now the world is over." So that'd be one thing I would say. So there's lots of little things happening all over the place, and maybe they don't get a lot of kind of attention. With voice, I think one of the things that my eyes were opened up to, or ears in this case, I suppose, was that we kind of think about the service being encapsulated into a device, right? So it's either in a little hockey puck on our table, it's in the hardware on our computer, it's in the TV, it's like it's embedded in all these little places. And then it's like, okay, well, what do we do with it then? So that kind of gives it the context to what it should be doing in that place, right? So the job in the TV is to navigate the media. The job on the phone is to navigate the thing. So it's kind of straightforward pattern, right? It's to make the thing usable and searchable in the area that you're in, whether it's I want to do a quick message on my phone or I want to get my favorite TV program up on the television. But it's the same pattern. And it was Dan who first said this to me, which is, you gotta get it into your mind that the voice assistant is different than a voice channel, and they're two different things. And if you think about them differently, you're gonna go, oh, okay, I was thinking about it one way and I should have been thinking about it another way. But it's almost like a fundamental difference. And so just as you were talking there, I was thinking, and you were playing that Netscape interview there, I was thinking of all the little small bits in a factory that are being used, all the small little searches that are being used all over the place. And then I was thinking, well, yeah, and we're all kind of on the phone to each other. We're all on the Zoom to each other. We're all in the contact center. And so, so where's the voice? And then it's kind of all around you. It's everywhere. And there's no kind of joined up thinking about, what do you do with that? So I feel that we kind of expect this kind of Disney Pixar moment where we can walk into a building and go, hey building, I'm here, and the building goes, great to see you, Paul, your office is on the left and this is your first meeting, and hey, I've summarized your 4 reports, and then you're just going, hey, it's so great to be me. And that's the way it's kind of set up. But if you look at like what's happened in the call center environment, you go, yeah, everyone knew that it's kind of happened in the call center, but not even as much as you would have expected happened in the call center, even with all the incentives and the measurements and all the things. So you start to think, well, like I'm kind of, on the one hand, I'm very enthusiastic about the industry, and on the other side, I'm super skeptical about things that happen, and you try and balance the two and not be kind of too overly weighed in one or the other. But I was making some notes for this, and I was trying to get my thinking in a straight line, and just kept on coming back to forget about the technology. Don't think about the technology. Look at the behaviors. Like everything you want to know is in the behaviors. So let's track those things and see what's happening. So that was my kind of lead off. Where was my anchor? Where did I want to set my anchor? I was thinking, let's look at the behaviors and see what's happening.
Right. So if you're looking at voice now, it's mostly dictation and command, but it's not much in the way of conversation particularly, right? Or maybe it is, and I'm not recognizing. The other side is that, in the middle of a pandemic, people are looking to, let's say, engage the senses as close to real life as they can, or real time in life as they can. And that also obviously makes you want to hear things more too. And ultimately, voice, one way or the other, is you're hearing something. So, so what about, where are we in the? I mean, right now, look, dictation and command's fine. It's fun. We all do it. I have 100, what's here. Like I literally can't say it. Brent had to shut it off. I can't. I just say A, right? Because I have it here and on another device. And if I say it, the room will go berserk, right? So, I mean, it's how I control the lights in this place. But conversation, bots are not conversation.
Can I stop you just 1 second?
Yeah.
All right. Just think about this slightly different. I had this conversation. I I was thinking to myself, man, yeah, if everyone's talking about voice ordering a pizza, like I'd ring up and I could get a pizza. That's my example. It's like just such a terrible example. And I thought, what if none of those things happen? Like, what if you don't do any of that? It's just a bad way of ordering pizza. But what if I think about it like I have this whole conversational cloud? Like I've got all this voice recognition, I've got all this transcription, I've got all this stuff. What happens with that? And I said, well, I mean, the obvious thing that people are doing is transcription. Like you can recognize it, it's an existing business. What's going on with that? Like what's going on with this? And I got onto my friend Alan Quayle and I asked Alan, I said, Alan, how big is the transcription business? And he was kind of, I don't know if it's that big. I did some analysis on it. I think it's 30 billion or something. I went, what? What? There's a 30 billion pound transcription business there. And all these guys are building their own little stacks built on their own little hardware and all stuff. And then there's this cloud coming along, and it's going to eat their dinner. So I phoned a company that does this stuff. And I said, hey, just curious, you guys do this kind of legal transcription services thing. And and then this stuff is coming over there. What are you thinking? He says, our CEO told us don't look at that. That's scary. Like it was like, oh, right. Okay. So it just got it into my head that sometimes when we're looking for the pizza, we're missing where the other stuff might be coming out of. And so again, we become target fixated on some kind of behaviors and actions. And so one of the things that I absolutely genuinely did this in the last 2 weeks, I showed one of the people in Webio that you could go to your Microsoft document, Word document, you could click on this dictate button and watch this. And I shared screen and I started talking and it just did the whole thing.
Real
and
time.
They lost their minds. They went, oh my God, this is amazing. And then I said, what you were saying there, Paul, was going, I'm using transcription, I'm doing this, and I got that. Yeah. Look around you. Who is writing their Word documents with this perfect transcription service that saves their little fingers and is faster than typing input? They're not doing it.
No.
So again, there's amazing live dictation built into your application faster than the way you're doing it, and you're not doing it.
So let's go down the avenue that you're talking about. That it's more about, so technology is not the constraint here. It's our own behavior and our own acceptance, and perhaps our own lack of imagination of all the stuff that we can do once we realize that what we are saying is being accurately rendered somewhere. And bear in mind, I keep thinking of CRM Playaz, and I think of contact centers.
Wow, wait a minute. You think of CRM Playaz and you think of contact centers? We're not doing something right, man.
You know what? We need to hire Alan to help build our corporate.
We need a better corporate narrative, man.
Right.
Okay, yeah, Alan, forgive me. It's just where my mind goes. But if you don't redefine what a contact center is in your mind, sort of a hub, if you will, of interactions between people and the resources that people want to get to, some of whom are butts in seats, then you're kind of missing sort of the value of conversations and not thinking about the high percentage of conversations that still remain in the voice channel, if you will, but are rendered as voice or speech. And that, if you segregate spoken interactions and just sort of say, hey, it terminates when it's accurately rendered as dictation, then yes, you're not going to get anybody to do anything with it. When you sort of say, okay, people are talking over the phone, people are talking to their smart speakers, there's a lot of raw material that we create that represents kind of what we want to do. And it's not dictation, it is search, it is command and control, it is eventually, and Paul, this is where that discussion of, hey, it's all about a voice assistant, is that assistant evolves from, just sort of recognizing what you say and responding to questions. So Q&A is going on probably everywhere. I mean, all these chat bots that are out there are essentially simple Q&A bots. They're they're doing the pattern recognition and doing that very accurately, and then matching what you said with an answer. And doing that, that's where you get into that, hey, it's 70%, is it 60%? If it's untrained, it's 50%. But we can get that accurate as well. So we're in the early stages of figuring out that, hey, I can talk to a machine. And my model isn't Pixar, although we do get to Wall-E pretty quickly. And it isn't Minority Report, which is all the pattern recognition and uncloaking and all that. But it is Star Wars. It is this expectation that you say, computer, do blah, blah, blah. and it does it. And it can do medical stuff, and you'll find areas, you talked about, voice being everywhere, being part of the ambience. One of the product lines that Nuance has launched over on their medical side is called, Ambient Intelligence. And that if you think of voice and what people say, you think of something that's kind of annoying, like going to the doctor and finding that they're totally preoccupied with typing everything that they're thinking into some form and not even looking at you. That, hey, what if you had accurate rendering of what you said, what the doctor said back, you kept that information somewhere where it's retrievable, you can recognize the patterns from it, you can figure out what you said was wrong with you and what the doctor said you ought to do about it, and prescriptions and stuff like that. It gets interesting.
Can I just, because I was aware of maybe a spark for this earlier, Paul, which was, I think, this conversation that back, was it 15 so years ago, was CEBP, Communications Enabled Business Processes, and that it was going to be being able to take actions within a conversation, or you could activate a conversation from another place. So I could be in a map and activate, I see my cab on the way, and I can maybe call that cab or talk to that cab driver. That's a communications enabled business process. And I think that where you've gone there is like the difference of being able to say, like a WebEx from maybe 10 years ago, hey, who else has booked this WebEx room, right? That's a kind of simple context. But where you build out, hey, I've got 12 people in a conference room, I need to be able to tell that they're individuated. I might stream which ones are saying what, but they're also talking about, well, what are the participation rates of people? And maybe some people are being excluded. And maybe we get better results from meetings when we have maybe a higher rate of contribution from a person or persons who don't normally get to contribute. And this is all by way of saying that I think the data, the pieces of the data are what you're saying, what people are saying around you, and then maybe what other data you can bring to that conversation that makes sense. And it kind of strikes me that it's like you either kind of believe that you can add value to that person and their interaction, or you're kind of going long tail data. We're going to make everything a little bit better and a little bit smoother, a little less friction when you're going around buildings and stuff. And I like to keep my attention on how it's going to help me. And the group bit and the organization bit, and that kind of more friction-free experiences throughout a kind of a utility. That's what I like to keep my eye on, is what's it actually making my work easier to do. If I could give you another example that we got at ConverCon last year from a guy who came in from Kainos in Northern Ireland, just a really great little company. And he was talking about a design they were doing for an MOT, which is a motor vehicle test. It's a yearly test to see if your car is car worthy. And what they did is they swapped out the form filling for a headphone, and the guy or person walking around the car and saying, okay, headlight seems to be dim, scratches on the side, tires are a bit flat, and they were able to just voice input all the data, and it would fill out all the forms, and it was all automated, right? And it was pretty bloody good. Turns out that the legal framework of that industry meant that they actually needed someone to write down a form. They would not let you put it in voice. It was just like, oh, so we'll get through more cars, we'll get it all done, everything is right? Just no, won't do it. There's a legal framework. So maybe there's a little bit of people hitting little kind of, oh, compliance, security, oh, can't do that. There's the bit of that was thrown over the shoulder with COVID. Like, I don't care, get it done. Like, get it done, get it done, get it done. Like the business transformation expert is now COVID-19. So I found some interesting sidebars from that, which was that because they were designers and technicians working on the project, they found that, if you were to do this via voice, you would have live transcriptions and all that is time-stamped. It would actually be impossible or near impossible for someone to fake an MOT, which was happening, that people would have fake MOT. You just fill out the forms. You don't have to see the car. You don't have to be there. Just fill out the forms, file them. I saw the car. Who's to know? Well, you might be able to use this technology to actually validate that these things actually did happen when you say they happened. And the other thing they found out from looking at people in this situation was that they were using the yellow legal pads, the yellow legal pads that some people like. But apparently yellow legal pads is one of those things that dyslexics really prefer, because it's less, the paper isn't as bright. So you tend to like the dimmer paper. And they found that something like 27-30% of all the mechanics had dyslexia. And so that kind of got me
remember that
thinking.
for the next trivia contest here next time you're doing that. So,
but I said this to somebody who works in the beauty salon business.
yeah,
And he goes, oh yeah, an awful lot of our beauty salon people are dyslexic too, and you can see that in how they're inputting data and all this stuff. So you kind of start thinking, well, that's really interesting, like that there's a bunch of people who maybe are excluded from industries or don't achieve other levels of success in other ways of life, because they don't think that they're right for this. They were always kind of this input mode didn't suit them. They were de facto locked out of progress in that industry or in another education opportunity. So I think that there are issues around voice and voice input and voice interaction, and how we, not everyone has a great parent to sit them down and show them how money works, right? Not everyone can explain, hey, Paul, you know what? 5 drinks is enough for you. I can hear that you are now just talking rubbish, so I'm going to shut you down. And so who knows what the devices or a conversational voice, conversational input could do, or what other opportunities arise from it. And I think you're going here anyway, Brent, with the Adobe setup there, which is the integration piece, right? And once you get beyond 1 or 2 turns in a conversation, you got to have a lot of information linked up to make that thing work. So it's not that you can't model it. It's that you don't have the data there for it. So a lot of companies are like simple things, like what's 80% of your questions? What's my balance? When's my next payment date? Can I move that to another account, please? Like, if you don't have those integrations in place and you can't do it, then you can't fulfill that action. So it doesn't matter how good you are in the voice recognition. The data isn't there.
But I think the good news there is that in a number of verticals, I'm thinking insurance particularly. You brought up, Paul, a couple of things that seem pretty self-evident. One is that form filling, because Alan's online saying, hey, what's a killer app going to be? It does turn out that over the phone, a lot of, and I remember going to an Oracle session early on too, because now you have Larry on my brain. But it's really funny that sitting behind this sophisticated conversational user interface that used voice, they were populating web forms. That's what they were doing now, and they did it kind of clumsily. And 3 years ago, they had to you had to start with last name, first name, date of birth, blah, 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 to fill in the damn things. And now, at least there are conversational models that sort of say, I'm trying to fill in this form. That's the objective. The intent of the person calling isn't to fill in a form. It's to, open an account or book a flight or that sort of thing. And wouldn't it be nice, and we learned this with early IVR stuff, is they shouldn't have to do it in order. you realize that you define the task kind of broadly, and you have to fill in these things, and you hear out, when somebody says, hey, next Thursday 9 p.m. I'm going to be so and so, you know their location. You can kind of use what amounts to either rules-based or some sort of on-the-fly black box artificial intelligence, because surprise, artificial intelligence hasn't come up here yet, to help a person quickly fill in a form or detect what they've left out so that they accomplish their task. So in a funny way, Alan, this sounds really boring, but excuse me, but fulfilling things by, just getting the hard part done by speech rec and, excuse me, a conversational model. And I'm going to go on mute for 1 second.
He's the bot father.
There.
He can do that. So,
yeah, I can do that.
He's running out of vodka.
Yeah, it's SodaStream saved my life. Incidentally, in lockdown, I'd have a bad habit of something other than soda water sitting next to yeah, it's soda water. It's all good. But we have the basis for a voice conversational assistant to march us through some of the things that are annoying, and that's kind of the beginning. It's something for an individual, for the Paul-centered world, to help you finish the stuff that you want to do using your voice, as opposed to just sort of showing that, hey, it renders words accurately in a document or something. It's to some end.
So in that case, right, you could be doing something and feeling like you're gathering. I think that as you were talking there, I was thinking about some of the use cases that we see around, and an awful lot of it is like it's feedback, it's information capture. It's like, how can I get this information or feedback from somebody? And how am I going to gather that, and how do I do that kind of friendly and efficiently? And that process there that you outlined is, a conversational interaction design. That's how I'm going to solicit this information out of you, and I have good conversation design, and I have a good conversational engine to kind of do that. And in a way, the kind of solved problem that I have to re-emphasize every year is, it is a combination of where you apply it in the business. Do you have good conversational designers, i.e. people who have studied conversation design and know what they're talking about? And do your engineers know the conversational platforms and technologies they're going to be working with? And then they all have to get in a room and plan out how they're going to MVP it and iterate it and support the project moving forward. And it looks like every other software project that you've ever had once you look at it like that. And yet we have to do it every year, right? And I think that the some of the things that I was thinking of, this kind of this river of voice data that's all around us. And again, Paul, when you were speaking there and you were going your dictation and your thing, and I was going, my mind just went, yeah, dictation, gotcha. Now I'm going to extract the things that you want to do. That's a date, that's a request, that's a task, that's a thing. So that gets kind of more sophisticated. Like, I can extract the things that you want to do, or the commitments you're making, and that's in some pretty decent softwares at the moment. And then it's going to do something for me so I don't forget it. Like, it might be, these are commitments, stick them to to-dos. These are dates, stick them to calendar. These are whatever, do something else, right? And I'm just looking at this, all this data in the contact center, all this data about who contacts who and what they say to each other, all this data all around the place. And I remember just sweating this kind of technical stuff around how we know what words are and phrases are and all that. And I came across this company, and they did voice analytics, and they stripped out all the words, right? And all they did is they followed the voice and the biometrics of the voice, and they were able to get as accurate or more accurate readings of what sentiment and what emotional content was going on in this conversation. 0 words. And that kind of gets you thinking about, well, what other data I know, what biomarkers do we have in our voice, and in the way we say things, not the things that we say, but maybe the way we say them, that tells us things. So we were working with a client, and we were just talking in general about how they set the language level, like how sophisticated are your sentences, like how do you figure out if it's plain speaking or not. And they said, oh, we did an analysis, and our customers, the ones we have to service, the average reading age was 13. Right now, this is an adult population. So when you start thinking about how you design a service to support that reading age, you'd have a completely different conversational design. You'd have a completely different level of language. You'd have a different phrasing. You'd have different turns. You'd be much more considered in your design. And so I guess this is, I guess, a long segue into the fact that there's a ton of data in all these conversations. To date, they haven't been very well used. It's basic stuff. But the next step is figuring out how do we use the data, what's being said in conversations, to help them complete more effectively, then how it's being said, and then maybe the other biometric markers that might tell you maybe the language is telling you one thing, but the tone is telling you another. And now how do I resolve that? Now there's challenges all along the way to make that happen. But I think that's the inevitable outcome of it. That's where it's going. The only question is how long it takes to get there, and whether or not it makes a I kind of think about it as, the way you look at is it a 4K or 8K TV screen where the eye
How much
can't
money
tell
you
the
want to
difference.
spend?
Right. But I think technically, Dan, you correct me if I'm wrong here, I think the eye can't actually physically differentiate between the 4K and the 8K. Like it has no capacity to tell the difference, right? So you've passed this threshold of visible perception. Like beyond a certain point, it's like looking through a window to the eye. Can't tell the difference. When we put broadband codecs into our Skype services and our messaging services, we had much broader voice presence in conversations, and it felt like the person's in my ear. They're here in some fashion. The brain processes it it crosses a threshold, right? So I kind of wonder, is there a point where we can have some form of conversational fidelity where we're not saying that it's a person. We're going to be careful that you don't think you're talking to a person, but that at a certain point you stop caring that it is a person or not, and you interact with that service in a certain way. And I think that is that is going to be like, that's another 10 years, 15 years down the road that all happens. But there's going to be a point the graphs are all pointing in that direction. Like it will happen someday. I think that's the visionary side of where voice will go and what it can do. Right now, I think we're just looking at. There's one other thing that I made a note about, Dan. It's the move to voice assistants on the mobile phone.
Yep.
It's like I think there was a battle there for a while to say it can be in these little hockey pucks on your table. It can be in your ear. It can be, you won't need this smart device anymore. You can put down your phone. We don't need it anymore. And I think that conversation has circled back to the fact that actually that this is a very powerful computer. It's going to do a lot of things. And if we voice interact with it, that's a gesture that we're as monkeys very happy to use. We understand. We see the other monkeys holding up the phones like little slices of pizza, talking to the magic pizza slice, and that we see people. It's observable behavior. But when you look at what people are doing when they do a mobile assistant interaction, it's all stuff about me. So what is around me? So it's all local. So when I pick up a phone, it's, hey, which of my friends are around here? Or what's a really good bar around here that serves good whiskey sours? Or it's all, or what barber will cut my hair during a pandemic shutdown. It's all local, right? So I think that the interesting things are observing how they're being used, looking at the patterns. I think you were saying, Paul, about this is like a command pattern. This is a search pattern. This is these patterns are all there. It's not all one thing obviously being done by voice over everything else. It's voice first, voice amongst, but not voice only.
Dan, give us something to think about on our way out.
Right, I sort of say. And meanwhile, here on Earth, everything that Paul said is perhaps what we're moving towards. And ironically, voice user interface is the most natural way for us to use our words. And as he points out, a lot more, because you can use it for identification, authentication, detecting sentiment. If there's a takeaway from this great discussion, and thank you for laying out, the voice-driven, the highly personalized voice-driven world of the next 30 years, a bunch of the stuff we're thinking of as leading-edge technologies are going to be absolute commodities, and this voice, this conversation design is going to just naturally fall out of the fact that there is such rich content in, voice data, whatever you want to call it. And if we give permission, it can be stored on our own behalf and be used for all those things that Paul was talking about. It's sort of like knowing your location, having a sense of your history, having strong assurance that you are who you are because your voice and is unique, and then sort of knowing your current disposition in the way, like an Apple Watch or whatever knows what your blood pressure is doing and your pulse and all that. You're going to read a lot into how people are feeling and what their emotional state is by how they say it, not what they say. And so those are all the building blocks. Things are moving faster. That's the evidence in the Adobe research as well as other things. I think they're asking the questions all wrong, because it was kind of saying, okay, voice is secular. It's not part of everything else that Paul was just talking about. So of course we haven't integrated it yet because we haven't been given sort of the possibilities. But when it starts, it's going to be pretty fast, because there's a lot more people who kind of have expectations that they ought to be able to sort of say what's on their mind and get results pretty darn fast. So.
Yeah, I think maybe people are still treating this area as more of digital transition. Well, we're trying to find a way to make it what we do easier and more efficient, instead of being able to look at this stuff and say, wow, maybe we could do these things that we never even thought we could do before with this. And maybe this allows us to do things that will make our lives even better, and not just try to do the things that we are used to doing a little bit more efficient. And I think it goes on to something too, with having a platform based on a foundation that has a communications layer, with the voice being one of those channels, with the AI layer on top of that, and then the applications on top of that, where now everything is built and the plumbing is all there to create applications that have it inherent in the way that people will actually use these, will hopefully use these applications, because it's not a separate component or something that you have to kind of think about separately, as opposed to thinking about as one big thing altogether.
Yeah. And my dream is that there's a voice technology that completes all my sentences, because natural language generation is next, and combined with text to speech, we're there. So
I thought you were heading for the obvious "my wife" joke there, but I won't go there. I
thought he was heading for something that makes him like the Jets win more games or something.
I'm not a Jets fan.
Oh, are you a Browns fan? Is that it?
Was, but another lifetime. I'm now into Premier Football, because It's just much more entertaining and less violent.
In other words, he was a Browns fan. So anyway.
Which is always at least entertaining.
Paul, could I leave you with one last provocation of things that might be interesting to keep your eye on? And I'm just fascinated by the embedding of intelligent assistants into everyone else's software platform. So everyone from Salesforce, Zoho, Oracle, every application has embedded some form of intelligent assistant into it. And I'd just be really interested to see what behavior is emerging, given that they are now like across all the real estate. What's going on? Like, how are they being used?
To your point, the one thing I still think isn't quite there is I don't really, to your point, Paul, earlier, I think you're right. Look, ultimately, the value of voice is in the outcomes it produces for the people who want those outcomes, right? I still think that most people don't know exactly what they expect of voice as a technology, not as an actual part of their biology. And it goes to your other discussion on the markers, right? Where no words. We all actually have that ability already. We have that. Like, how many times do you see somebody having a conversation over there and you can hear tone, but you can't hear a word, but you say, God, he's mad at somebody, right? And it's not hard to actually pick up that from pure tone, right? So I think a lot of this has to do with how does that translate into something which is effectively an extra layer that beyond your own natural use of your own voice, right? So it's not that easy. And everyone's having a good time with Alexa, right? And they're having a bad time with Siri because of autocorrect, right? And so it goes to, that's why the accuracy level is so low. People just think it's Siri, right? So I am a huge advocate for voice, and what you guys have said today just blows me away and fascinates me no end. On the other hand, I think that the barriers are still, they're not apparent, but the behavioral barriers are stronger than I think we think.
I think that people have been, their natural instincts to talk and to express themselves without even having to think about it have been warped because of trying to fit in how to speak in algorithms and search phrases. And we've been doing it for so long that it's warped our natural sense for being able to say what we mean and think and have it brought back to us in a way that we can really gravitate it towards. And
we're doing it wrong.
That's the big thing. Yeah.
Well, you have to break the old norms to get to the new ones, right? Yeah. So, and they're not broken yet.
Well, all right, let's break some norms, folks. No, anyway.
Yeah.
No, this has been great. It's been a really great conversation, and I appreciate both of you guys jumping in, because really this sprung from your comments during Larry's conversation or Larry's CX discussion, and seeing Paul jump in and like, well, we need to get him on, and we're like, well, man, we need Dan too. So I'm glad you guys are able to join us for that.
No one knows more than Dan.
Yeah, we need to revisit this some point down the line. It's not often that we have the bot father and the godfather of CRM
and the busker. But we have the busker of voice on too.
The what?
The busker.
The people that sing on the subways.
The people who sing on the streets and get 5 million subscribers on YouTube.
Wow.
Right.
I'm just Brent Leary, folks, corner. So I'm just.
This is the corner in one corner in Dublin.
Oh, that'll be me. The man who looks like a pint of Guinness.
He's the the busker of voice. That's what we're calling you from now on.
There you go.
All right. Once again, I'm just Brent Leary. I don't need any monikers or names like that. I'm just the Rams fan. All right. So this has been great. And for Paul over in Ireland and Dan Miller, wherever, are you in New York now or what?
Yeah, I'm on Manhattan.
Back in the big city. I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Playaz, and we will see you tomorrow talking sports.
That's right.
Talking Browns football. No.
Oh, yeah, right.
Nah.
You got better.
Premier League. No.
All right. Anyway, we will see you tomorrow. Thanks.
Okay.
Oh, we got to do our pause, right?
Oh, that's right.
I hate doing that. All right.
I did
here we
too.
go.